years ago, and I found I had to select a theme to get it into 10 minutes or less. Before I start, I'll apologize for not mentioning sources because this is all conjecture and belief. It really doesn't matter where I got it. I glommed onto it, whatever it was. I was born youngest of 8 kids in 8.5 years to a very devout Catholic farm family. Rabbits, you know the mess. And at one time, 5 of the 8 were in religious life. So none today. My earliest spiritual memories date from when I was 7 studying the catechism. And that was for First Communion preparation. I learned that God was all kinds of everything. He's all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing. Pretty much stuff you can't be without being everything. So that became kind of the seminal worldview, and it's never changed. It's the bedrock for me, is that everything is God. God is everything. As I got older, I added pieces like reincarnation, but these were all tweaking around the edges. Science-based things like laws of attraction at the smallest level, mirroring the larger levels, and things like that. I spent a number of years studying the I Ching, not 40, but, you know. I found that it changed me in some very fundamental ways. Most of the time from college to coming here, I was unchurched, and Jeff and I were recovering from religion, I guess, extended recovery. As a college student, I found the evil in the world to be very depressing and really overwhelming. And the worst part was that it didn't fit easily in my concept of God is everything, because that concept also is attached to God being loving and good, and so it's really hard to figure out how to fit the veil of tears into that. And for that reason, I kind of adopted that as a major purpose of my life, to figure out what's the deal with that. That was the theme I used in the first time I did this presentation 14 years ago. I have bought into what a number of elders speak of as the perfection of every moment. Once again, it doesn't fit my gut, but it's what my head has decided is true. That every moment is a perfect juxtaposition of challenge and choice. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, comes out of that. That it's all about learning something. I still could not reconcile it. And I have to put as a side note that I've always considered it a red flag. If you have a worldview and the realities you see in front of you don't fit into it, but I could not shake the everything is God and that God is inherently good. So I kept that, just as a side. Over the years, I had a lot of help guiding my understanding from a lot of intuitives and healers and channeled works and things like that. I'm not afraid of those things. Early on, I was told that I have a very strong truth meter and that I should trust it. My second side note, if you tell odd people that they should trust their intuition and their truth meter, the next thing you know, they're on the mountain waiting for the spaceship to pick them up. Oh well. So when I got kicked out of college, which I don't have time to tell that story now because of the 10-minute limit, it was really about my mother having an opportunity to lose her religion, which I thought was, in retrospect, it took me a while to figure that out, but that is what it was about. She launched into a truly inspired UU style search for meaning at that point. And she went through a lot of stuff, but she kind of ended up in a New Age place. And she took all of us with her. So I'm basically a New Ager. And that's the theme I chose for today. I was going to show a little book, but one of my favorite sources is called Other Council Fires Were Here Before Ours. It's written by two Seneca Native American teachers, one of which is like the elder and the other was the scribe, but both fully understanding and qualified teachers. The book, which was copyrighted in 1991, recounts a council of the stone people. You probably know those as rocks. They're the memory of the planet. And the stone people in their council reconstruct the 7 worlds or ages of human life on this planet. In the book, the transitions between the earliest 4 worlds involved events of total destruction of the human race between. So each of as it went from one world to the next. Let's see. The current transition, and we are at it, I don't know if you remember back in the 60s, all this New Age stuff and all the things that get called New Age. Well, you know, when those things get in the consciousness, there's usually something to it. And this really is my understanding of what is to it. It was supposed to involve a polar shift. I've also seen mention of large asteroid collisions. A variety of sources indicate that there was a collective decision that we all were part of, that we made in 1987. We were all part of it, right? And the decision was to attempt this transition without the total destruction of the human race at that time. In the previous ones, there was a special tree of life. People went into the planet and came back out afterwards. And my understanding from this stuff is that that's not there anymore. The Wikipedia calls the harmonic convergence a name given to one of the world's first globally synchronized meditation events, which occurred on August 16th and 17th of 1987. The event also coincided with an unusual alignment of the planets in the solar system. The Mayan calendar is a galactic calendar that maps the timing of galaxy events as they relate to this planet. And the end and new beginning, and I don't know if you recall, but quite recently we had a change, the end of the Mayan calendar. That was actually on December 21 of 2012. Now, Twilanish, who is the elder of this Other Council Fires, puts the date of transition from the 4th world to the 5th world at 2013. But this transition being done without, you know, some kind of a calamitous changeover, you know, changes don't occur in that kind of time scale. It's a gradual transition. So putting it at that date doesn't exactly fix it. So in the book, the transition is from the 4th world of separation into the 5th world of illumination. The 4th world was characterized by pain and separation. We were reported to have lost our understanding of the universal language of love. Does that feel familiar? The 5th world, we remember who we truly are. We're given additional remarkable gifts. We no longer die. We live in synchrony with each other. In my worldview, the age we're leaving involved a high degree of separation of yin and yang energies. And the yin energies, oh wait, I have to point out that this was required in order to have this really unnatural individuality, since that's not a natural state. And that by doing that, we are leaving a lot of yin and yang separated, which is uncomfortable for the yin and yang energies. The yin energies are very passive, so that doesn't create problems. But the yang energies are, in fact, quite active, and they're seeking to reconnect. But it basically causes chaos and entropy. So this is the source of the negative energy that I attribute most evil to, if you want to call it evil. I mean, it's just thrashing, basically. So I've been calling it the negative energy, but so I had an experience somewhere in the early 1990s, and I don't remember. She called what she did psychokinesis, and it was characterized as a method of connecting to your higher self. She concluded, since I didn't ask for anything in particular, that I needed to know something. So she had this really interesting, I mean, it was one of these things where, and she used the books in her libraries to pin down particular concepts. She was very fast at doing that, or it would have taken forever, because I don't know how she did it that way. The message I got was that we are in an experiment, and that what we are experiencing has no historical precedent. And that I should let people know there's nothing to fear. I later concluded that the experiment was about what happens when large amounts of negative energy coincide with the preponderance of advanced, experienced old souls. The experiment is partly about the extent to which that negative energy creates growth in the human spirit, or alternatively, if people crash and burn. The objective, in part, is to determine what would be an optimum level of this kind of energy to promote learning, but not cause massive destruction. So one of the sources I saw said that would be, an optimal level would be around 5% of that kind of energy. My understanding is that we're in something closer to 50%. And that's why this is also, and right now we're dealing with the death throes of that effect, which is why the whole world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket. But my understanding is also that the experiment itself is over. It's just a question of clearing this negative energy. And that Lucifer, who agreed to personify the evil as Satan, is now back to being Lucifer. So, just one source I saw said that some of the negative energy that might be titrated into the corners of the universe would be us, because we've incorporated some of that, just from having lived through so much. So I see the death throes of this being the end of this age. And that we are gradually, the old souls, you can see it, they're rising up. The old souls are coming to reconstruct new systems to replace the old systems that were not working. I also, kind of as an overlay, I see what we're doing here as kind of theater. We take on roles. Death, it's almost like changing clothes. It's not, we're all afraid of death because we need to preserve our opportunities and whatnot, but we just go away and come back in some other form. There are a few ways that you can be harmed by doing that. And what we do is productive, whether we play the role of a victim or of a betrayer. There's no shame, there's no guilt. Eventually we learn the lessons we set for ourselves. We don't arrange lessons we can't get through, but we have choice whether to try. So ultimately, I think relationships are the most important thing we do here. Merging with other seemingly separate entities moves us back toward the central God experience. Part of our challenge is to experience the God in every other person we meet. And to me, that's the deep meaning of Namaste. So I think there's more pain ahead. I think we will succeed in making this a better, even amazing world. I don't know how long it's going to take. We may not see all of it ourselves. We might be the old souls making progress on the pieces that need to be in place. I think our children and our grandchildren are the brilliant lights that will lead this work. And I see many of the awful things that we are witnessing playing important roles in the transition. Personally, I'm hugely optimistic. I'm excited about our transition to this new age of illumination, and I'm grateful to be here with you to share it.